Hey everyone! Mythology Guy and Wilda here, and we just finished watching season 1 of Trese on Netflix, the Filipino mythology-based show. Now, obviously, I'm the Mythology Guy, she's my wonderful partner, and she's Filipino, so together we both had, like, an interest in this show.
Yep.
So, of course, the basic premise is, like, we've got, like, this Filipino woman solving crimes in the Philippines that have to do with mythical creatures. And that's a premise I really like, honestly. It's kind of fun to see. It's fun to see, like, this world where just Filipino creatures are accepted by most people, but some people also don't believe in them.
Fairy tales.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, I don't have time for your fairy tales. And it's like, yeah, okay, I guess you just don't know what's going on around you.
It will always have the non-believers.
But yeah, that is realistic, honestly. In real life, if we have these monsters just running around, there would still be people who would go, no, that's not real. It's not happening.
No,
It's
conspiracy
fake news.
theory, y'all flat earthers.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, would you say you enjoyed the show?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. As I said, like, in our first impressions video, not about the trailer, but, like, the other video, I'm not a big anime fan, but I will say, yeah, I definitely ended up liking the show. I think a big part of it is because I am Filipino, so it was fun to see all the Easter eggs and, like, how many things can I recognize, because, as I said, I was born and raised here, but then for half of my life, I was also in the Philippines, so it was fun to, like, look for those things, and I'm also familiar with some of the mythology in the Philippines, so that was cool to see as a Filipino.
Yeah, she was actually the one who got me started on learning Filipino mythical creatures and stuff, which are amazing. Yeah, it was fun. Like, while we were watching, you were constantly noticing the things that go on in the Philippines that they were acknowledging in the show.
Yeah.
Like, when people were riding the bus and they were passing money down the line, or like the chocolate bars that they have in the Philippines, or the subway stations, or the billboard signs and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, if ever you were curious about Filipino culture, like what it is like in the Philippines, this is very based in the Filipino reality, very much.
From your reactions, it seems to me like this is very reflective of like what it's like to live in the Philippines, plus monsters. Plus monsters. Unless, for all we know, maybe they are down there. We just haven't seen them yet.
Non-believer.
Yeah, of course. I'm over here living my sheltered, non-monster infested life. The only monster I have to deal with is this one. No, as a mythology lover and a big lover of Filipino creatures, this was a lot of fun for me as well. It was so fun to see some of the, like, really cool Filipino creatures that I've studied. Like, if you've seen the trailer, you already know what a couple of them are. I'm not going to give it away right now. We'll get into spoilers a little later. But I did get to see one of the creatures I wanted to see the most, though I wish I had gotten to see a little more of him.
Yeah.
I think both our most wanted creatures were in this, but not for super long, unfortunately.
Yeah, little snippets.
Yeah. But, yeah, I would say, though, one weakness of this show is I didn't think the main character had a ton of character to her, unfortunately.
I feel like this main character could have been swapped with a lot of other main characters who are very, stoic and like, you know what I mean? There wasn't anything about her that was super special that really makes her memorable.
Yeah, it's hard to say, yeah, she, like you said, she's very stoic, very, like, no nonsense. Like, honestly, the two brothers that hang out with her are a lot more fun. I feel like I know more about what they're like versus what she's like.
Right.
She seems like right now she's just kind of feeling like every protagonist.
Pretty much. Like,
it's something that can be fixed in season 2 if we just learn more about her and see more about how she feels about things.
And I don't think there's anything wrong if you're a serious badass girl, like, that's cool and everything. But I just feel like she could have had something, they could have sprinkled a little more, something unique to her personality. I think that would have been nice. What makes Trese different from all the other badass women, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and there are a ton of awesome badass women in, like, movies and TV, but, like, usually they have character that, like, makes them more fun to be around or stuff. Like, Wonder Woman had good character to her. I thought Mulan had good character to her. I thought, like, characters like Moana and Rapunzel from Disney have a ton of character to them, you know. So like this character is obviously a badass, but there's not a lot to her. I like to refer to her as like a female John Constantine from DC, but the truth is John Constantine in DC, like, you don't know him, but for people who do know him, he has a lot of character to him too. Like, he's an alcoholic, he's a smart ass, he's like always like cheating and doing stuff to like get the one up on the demons. You know, he justifies by saying like, you're a demon, I'm not gonna play fair with you. Like, technically we're both cheating, I'm just doing it better than you. Yeah, and I think there are tiny little hints of that on occasion with this character, but she, like, for one thing, she always, like, has the same expression. That's one thing. It's always...
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'm going to end this. I'll take you down. I need to ask you some questions. Yeah. We need to deal with this. Like, it's always that.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. I don't think she smiled once on this show.
Yeah. And I mean... You know, I feel like she's the type where you could throw the quote at her like, hey, smell the roses of life, you know, or smell the flowers and stuff.
Stop to smell the roses,
yeah,
is what you're saying. Yeah, like, you know, stop. Like, she could take a page out of the two brothers' book. Like, they're always trying to have fun and celebrate, and she's always going, we don't have time for that. And it's like, yeah, really, stop to smell the roses. But for me, the real pull and, like, entertainment of this show does come from the mythical creatures, and the mythical creatures are really cool. The action in the show is really cool. The mythical creatures are fun to see. They sometimes build them up well with mystery and stuff, and there's always an arc to why the mythical creature is there and what's going on. It's usually cool to see. Like, the show is very creature of the week, like, with each episode. But one problem with this show, see, the show has an overarching story, but because this season only has 6 episodes, and the episodes are very creature of the week, I didn't think they built up to the ending very well. The ending was cool, but it didn't feel earned, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, when the big stuff started to happen, I was like, you know, I feel like I should be feeling this more. But I'm just kind of sitting here like, oh, cool action, you know? But, you know, it didn't feel like we were building up to this, like, oh, man, it's finally here. I was kind of sitting here like, oh, wow, this is already happening. Yeah. That was quick. You know?
Yeah, we were talking about how it probably would have been better if this season had maybe at least 12 episodes, or at least 10 or something. It could, you know,
a show like this would usually have at least 10 or 12. You know? Yeah, like, think about like Star Wars: The Mandalorian for one. That's pretty adventure of the week in each episode, but then when it builds up to the last thing, like, I think we were pretty invested in what was going on and everything.
Yeah, because like the thing is with this show, they established that, you know, story in the first episode, and then as the other episodes go on, it's more like, what do you call it, anthology? It's more like,
it's
like,
pretty...
You could just watch each episode by itself, and like the main or overarching story kind of gets lost in that in a way, or it's very lightly sprinkled.
It's very lightly sprinkled to the point of sometimes it's just like a character says, you know, there's a storm coming, right? And I was kind of sitting there like, oh, is there? Okay, yeah, cool. Like, and then the storm comes, and it's a cool storm, but it's like it just came out of nowhere. Yeah. But yeah, the creatures are a lot of fun, and overall, I would say that I enjoyed this show quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to more, and I'm glad that, like, Filipino creatures are getting a lot more attention, because Filipino mythology is really cool, and I think you should check it out. And this show makes me want to pick up the comic. So.
I think if you're like itching for, let's say you're very well versed in a lot of different mythologies, and you just want a way to learn more about Filipino creatures, the show gives you like a nice little introduction.
I think so, yeah, because the show doesn't really tell you too much about the creatures, but I think that's kind of good in some ways, because then people will be like, oh, I want to learn more about these creatures, and then they'll go learn more about them. I think they kind of tell you just enough about the creatures.
Yeah, and they definitely give you like those snippets, and then you could like search it on your own. Ooh, what's this creature? Who's that? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that's how it would go, like, basically. Alright, so overall, recommend the show. Highly recommend Filipino mythology as a whole. I might pick up the comic now, because I am interested in the idea. So we're going to go into spoilers now, and so spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this show, and if you haven't, it's only 6 episodes, man. It's like 3 hours, and you're done. Okay, so spoiler alert. And here we go. All right. So apparently her two friends are like the sons of like the war god.
Yeah.
And
her two sidekick.
Yeah, her two sidekick characters.
Crispin and Basilio.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, because like you told me, there's like a famous novel where the two main characters are brothers named Crispin and Basilio.
Yeah, look, I was in high school when we went over that story because I was in the Philippines. I don't know if they were main characters, but they are definitely like there's this big novel in the Philippines that like every high schooler needs to read. Like it's in our freaking curriculum, and yeah, Crispin and Basilio are brothers. They aren't. From what I remember, they definitely weren't like magical by any means, but they're definitely famous.
Yeah. So I'm wondering like if maybe the two characters in this show were named after them, or if these two characters in the show are based on actual mythical characters, and then those mythical characters inspired the names for the novel. Please let me know if these two demigods are actually in Filipino mythology. I don't know. I couldn't find... Like, I tried to do a little research, but I couldn't find any mention of them. So, I don't know. But, yeah. What was another thing we wanted to talk about? Like, was there something you wanted to talk about that's, like, a spoiler?
Spoiler.
One thing that interested me was they have tikbalang in this show, and they're like normally I would think those creatures are like more villainous, but they were pretty honorable good guys on this show. But one thing I found a little weird was their ruler has horns. I've never seen a horned tikbalang. I don't know of that being a thing. I was very happy to see that the capre were on this show. Those were my most wanted creatures. I was like, give me the capre, please. And yeah, we got them. But only, like, standing in a group, like, during a scene. I was like, no, I want a, like, episode dedicated to the capre. Like, we got episodes dedicated to the chanak, to the tikbalang, to the white lady, to the aswang, and, like, to, like, a curse that rises the dead and everything. But I wanted a capre episode, maybe next season. We also wanted a Manananggal episode. And again, they're in that lineup, too, with the villains. But... yeah, I would have really liked to see just a episode built around the Manananggal, because just how creepy and cool would that be?
We were talking about how we thought it was an interesting twist that they did with the design of the chanak.
Yes.
Because originally a chanak is pretty much like a demon baby, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in the version in Trese, you see him and he is like spider-like, but then we were thinking at first, I was like, why does he have spider legs? But then you realize these are actually his bones or something, like coming out of him.
Yeah, it's like his bones and spinal bones and stuff protruding out of him into like spidery legs, which is a really creepy and creative idea. And also it gives him a lot more movement that way, because like just a little demon baby would be walking around like but when it has spider legs, it can crawl up on the walls and everything, and it's much more threatening.
Like at first I was like, why? But then when you think about it that way, that's when I realized, oh yeah, it does give it more of a threat, even though it's kind of off at first, but then it's like, it helps.
Yeah, like I remember when we first saw it, I was like, oh, that's an interesting design. Like, and God, what happens at the end of that episode, it's like, whoa, like they do something really dark with it.
I
like
mean,
with
this is a spoiler section.
Yeah, what the mom, what the like actress does, like freaking like what they make it sound like she says early in the episode, oh, my grandmother raised me and there were words she said to me every night. It sounds sweet, but then you find out later her grandmother had actually been calling her worthless and telling her she hated her. And so she ended up saying that same thing to her child, and right before she stabbed it to death. That was so fucked.
That's so dark.
That was, man.
It's funny. Like, Andrew said one of his favorite comments for under the trailer reaction was...
it was after, because in that episode you said like, oh, I don't think this is going to be as dark as Invincible, and then someone in the comments went, should we tell her? Should we tell her?
He
I don't
said
think
that was
we
his
should tell her.
favorite comment.
That was my favorite comment.
And then I think that's one of the moments.
Yeah. This is a very gruesome show.
Not very, but it has its moments.
Well, it's certainly R-rated. That's definitely a thing.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah. But like, so that Chanuk story was interesting, and I liked how that all tied together. And also the episode where like the dead rise, there's a story behind that too, with the police and the guy who they catch, and that's kind of interesting. But personally, I thought the Chanuk episode was kind of probably my favorite one, because it had a twist I legit didn't see coming, and it was creepy, and it was a creature I really wanted to see. Like, I got a lot of what I wanted out of this show in that episode. And there was a duende in that episode, which I liked as well. Which I'm happy to say, hey, I called, like, once, like, the dirt started rising, I was like, is it a duende? And then it appeared, yes, it's a duende. So this...
What do you think of the, like, ending?
I was literally about to go into that, The way this season ends... Like I said, it didn't feel earned overall. It was kind of too out of... What I did like was what they did with Nuno, the twist around that. Like, that was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. I mean, it made me a little bit sad because I liked Nuno. I thought
too.
Nuno was gonna be like that consistent character that's always there as like the helper or something.
No more Nuno.
Oh.
And no more Guerrero.
Oh yeah. But it was so good how they killed Nuno.
Oh yeah.
That was so
the way
smart.
she did it was
actually,
really
I think
cool.
that was super executed well because like they were trying to like the ground was going around them for them to like
because it was so that nothing could penetrate.
Yeah, and then she
they
threw
were
the
like,
cell
you can't
phone.
get anything, nothing can penetrate this, and she said that's what I'm counting on, because she wanted them to be trapped in there with Santelmo.
Yeah, I think that was a very smart kill. I love the creativity behind that.
Yeah, that was really cool. Honestly, that would have been a better ending in my opinion. But yeah, the actual ending is like the God of War shows up, which was a little built up in like flashbacks, but yeah, again, it felt like it should have had way more impact when he showed up, and when they fought him, it was really cool.
Yeah.
One other little nitpick about this show is a lot of times they will cut away from action, like when she fights like this giant zombie, and we don't get to see how she kills it. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's like annoying because like here's the thing, they obviously can do a lot of creative kills. We've seen the violence in this show, so it would have been cool like when there were those big moments that we actually saw what happened, you know. But then again, remember what we were saying about the main character? I mean, she always wins anyway. Like, you know.
Like, we know she's gonna win, but can we at least watch her win? Watch the cool action happen?
Oh, and that was actually one of our pet peeves with her too. Well, me, maybe more with me. I don't know. But it's just like, aside from her kind of having like a neutral personality, it was kind of boring to see her just feel OP all the time, you know?
Yeah, it felt like there was nothing she couldn't handle.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
Oh, and I'm gonna insert, oh my god, I thought it was so freaking corny when the moment where the brothers are holding her down. Yeah. And then
there's a scene where the war god, because those two are his sons, he takes control of them. And yeah, like you were saying.
So they're holding her down and stuff. And then, you know, you think that, oh, she has no choice because he's about to feed her a piece of his flesh to convert her and stuff. And then she basically, like, oh my god. And you think there would be a creative way she could get out of it. Or maybe the brothers will, like, kind of go, like, from bad to good. Like, kind of struggle with that consciousness or something. No, none of that happens. But instead, wow, main character, again, overcomes it all. A light goes out of her body. And then
it was a little cheesy.
I know,
It's the power of love. She just suddenly blasts like out of her this energy bursts, and the two brothers are freed from the hole, and she's going, the power of blood is strong, but the power of family is stronger. And look, I don't have a problem with like family being the reason they overcome it. It's just I think there was a better way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with having her literally blast family energy is a little silly. I think what should have happened is like he should have ordered the brothers to kill her or something, and then you see them like fighting it, and then they break free of it, and then she could say like the power of family is stronger.
Like
I think it would have been more powerful.
But no, because she's so perfect, has no flaws. You know, her energy snaps them back to reality.
She has family energy, Wilda. Family pulse.
I mean, that's very Filipino.
But yeah, the war god is very Aztec-like in a lot of ways, with like the blood rituals he does and the flesh rituals and everything. Oh, and by the way, the last episode is freaking exposition kingdom. I counted it. The war god tells her about everything that's happened up until this point. He spends 8 to 10 minutes straight just talking about things. Like I looked at it, it was 8 minutes straight of him talking, and then 2 minutes of them talking back and forth. So like 10 minutes straight of just exposition and talking, like while she's being held. And I was just thinking, what are all her other allies doing during this? Like the Tikbalang, the wind spirits, and the cops what are they, just watching and eating popcorn while the guy's saying? They're like, well, we don't want to miss this is good exposition.
They're taking a break because unlike the main character, they actually are, they have flaws. They have to chill.
I guess you could argue that like the Tikbalang and the wind spirits are like unconscious, but like, the humans aren't. So like what are they doing during all that conversation? I mean, yeah, the chief does eventually show up and start blasting like the god and stuff, but what are the other humans doing? We know there's a whole army there.
They're playing chicken. They're like, you go, no, you go, you go.
I mean, yeah, they were like, all right, we should go in there. I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there, man. You think I'm going in there? No, I don't get paid for this. Yeah. I do not get paid to deal with Filipino gods.
I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be it. I don't know, but yeah. And then we get such a sad moment. The captain died.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to die. I liked him.
Same. I feel like the way I felt with Nuno and like the captain, I was like, I hope these are guys that stick around for a while.
Yeah, they're fun characters. Yeah. I feel like such an idiot. I thought Nuno was female, like the whole time. And at one point during the final battle, you asked me, wait, what's going on? I said, well, she. And you're like, what, are you talking about Trese? I'm like, no, I'm talking about Nuno. You were like, Nuno's a guy. I was like, is it? I thought it was a girl. And then literally, like, the next scene, a guy like me. And I was like, oh, shit.
I know my Filipino genders.
I can't question you. This is your territory. So
I'm like,
you know
yeah,
these
dude,
things.
he's a dude.
Yeah. I don't know. Always just gave off, like, a female energy to me.
He always gave off a Gollum energy, like, oh, Trese, I'm here.
I'm sorry. I thought we were going to get some female Nuno representation.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, there was a lot that was really cool. I like that the brothers find out they can summon weapons of war just like their father can. That's a cool idea.
Wait, they find that out?
I don't.
Or we just see it
maybe
more?
they already knew, but they utilize it. We find out, I guess you could say, because you see them turn their guns into chain guns, like. And actually, I think their power is more modern weapons of war because they were born in the modern age. Like, their father has access to all the ancient ones, like chain and sword and spear, whereas they have guns. Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and they literally shoot a symbol into the ground to banish their dad again. He must be getting really annoyed that they keep banishing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Greek mythology vibes with the dad who's eating Crispin and wanting to eat them.
Yeah, like, it's like, hey, Kronos called. He wants his family plan back. But whoever's voicing the god, like, I recognize that voice actor. If anybody knows and can tell me, please tell me. But also, the son of the thunder deity, I'm pretty sure was played by Dante Bosco. For anyone who doesn't know, Dante Bosco played Rufio in the Hook movie. He also played Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he played American Dragon Jake Long, for anybody who knows that show. Yeah.
I'm like the audience. Oh.
You're over here like, did he now?
I'm representing the audience.
Yeah, and he's a Filipino actor, so I was actually really hoping he would appear in this show. And he did, but I'm sad he wasn't around longer. Like, he played the son character who, like, was on screen for 2 minutes. Hopefully he'll come back in some way, or maybe his schedule is just so busy. Maybe they're like, Dante, can you do this? And he says, you have me for 2 minutes. What do you mean? 1 minute 58. Okay, go.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I have some problems with the ending, but I actually really liked the Creature of the Week episodes a lot.
Yeah,
like, I like the
cool.
Chanak episode, I like the Tikbalang episode.
I think it was, again, a good way to showcase the different mythical monsters of the Philippines.
And even though I was bummed that Nuno ended up being the villain, the way it was revealed was pretty cool and made sense. And the way that, like, she defeated them was cool.
Yeah, that was super
and,
cool.
like, clever. I like that. I like seeing her come up with a clever idea
Yeah, exactly.
like that.
See, that's why it pissed me off. And the Power Family, when she could do all that other stuff. Oh.
Exactly. Like I said, I think that San Telmo explosion
Yeah,
would have been a better way to end this season, personally.
Actually.
Yeah.
What, you don't want to hear the 7-minute monologue.
And then you could have teased the God of War for season 2.
Oh, yeah, actually.
I personally think that would have been better. Yeah, that freaking 8-minute monologue. It's like,
but did we learn so
could have
much?
killed her at any moment during all of that.
He's not the... Hey. He's God of War, and what's the other one? War and...
God of War and dialogue.
No. Yeah, he's God of War, minor, and dialogue.
God of War, minor, and dialogue.
You know, he has a poetic side to him.
He's such a James Bond villain. Now, what I'm going to do next, Mr. Ball.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on. And I thought it was getting a little ridiculous for me, because even though, like, what he's talking about is kind of interesting, it's such a silly villain cliche for him to be talking this long. Like, I think there were 4 different times where I went, oh my god, he's still talking.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't bother me as much, like, I guess... You know, I was just chill listening to everything, but when he pointed it out, he's still talking. I'm like, huh, he's still talking.
Yeah, it's still going. When I felt like it was coming to the end, I pressed the thing. I was like, my god, he spent 6 minutes straight talking. And we're like, oh, he's not even done. It was like 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Like, my god. And then 2 more minutes of them like going back and forth.
He was in hell for a long time. Now he wants to express
He didn't
himself.
have anyone to talk to.
You know,
all
this is
these
his moment.
years.
He needs that social interaction.
Oh, there was also another reveal that was kind of interesting, that Trese's father kind of messed up. Like, he did some messed up things, and it's funny because the whole show up until that point, everyone was saying her father was like the greatest guy. He would be so proud of you. I see him in you. Are you gonna live up to your father's legacy?
He's not necessarily a bad guy, but he wasn't exactly a saint either.
Like, well, you know, here's the thing. I guess the question is this: if you go back in time and off Hitler while he's a baby, is that a good thing to do?
Debatable.
Yeah, so that's... The character does something kind of like that here. So, like... And then he does something that
what he does after is
what he does after is really messed up. Like, yeah, he just, like, slaughters, like, this whole group of guys who, granted, did threaten him, but then they just kind of gave up and decided to walk away. He was like, oh no, you ain't walking away. Kill them all.
Yeah.
It's dang, dude. Like, and that kind of, and of course the irony of it was, like, in trying to prevent, like, losing
maybe that's
the peace.
where the kid got her war side, daddy.
Could be, yeah. You know, it all came from dad. But yeah, so yeah, there were some things that I thought could have been done better. I honestly think it would have been cooler if War God wasn't maybe teased for season 2 after that really strong way to end the battle with Nuno and the mayor and everything. And I thought that monologue going on for 8 minutes straight was ridiculous. You know what I think part of the reason they had to do that was because it's only 6 episodes, so they had to jam all that into that last episode. It's like, it would have been better if you, like I said, you doubled the amount of episodes and you gave us some of that information in bits throughout the season, and then at the very end, you know, you could have the villain say, actually what happened in these 2 scenes is, like, your father did this and this, and that's all you need to say. You can say that in 2 minutes. You don't need to say it in 8 minutes.
Yeah, to make up for it.
Yeah.
That 8 minutes was what was supposed to be sprinkled along all the episodes.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And yeah, I know it's based on a comic book, so maybe they're following it exactly. I don't know for sure. But even so, like, when people adapt a comic book, sometimes they make little changes to make it fit better for TV. And I think there are some ways you could have handled it a little better.
I'm just thinking of the potential of them doing in a comic 20 pages
oh yeah,
monologue.
just page and page of monologue. Oh man, it's still going. Oh man, I gotta pick up another issue. Yeah. Okay, so we had a bit of a technical issue, so we had to move to another location to continue this. Sorry about that. But, so You've heard our thoughts without spoilers. You've heard our thoughts with spoilers. You know that we like the show overall. There is something about it, though, that we feel like we should address. And,
Yeah.
you know, fair warning, this is a little controversial, but...
it has to be said. And here's the thing. As much as I know Trese is getting a lot of love, and I'm happy about that, that doesn't mean that, you know, a good thing can't have constructive criticism, and that we can't talk about important topics, especially for people who are Filipino or who have like lived in the Philippines and what they think of it. While I am an American, I did spend half of my life, good chunk of my life in the Philippines, and there are certain thoughts that I would like to speak about as someone who is a Filipino, because, and also I don't think anyone else is really talking about this. Everybody's just like praising, and I'm also in that boat, but I do have other thoughts as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important to at least bring it up. Yeah.
So basically this segment is kind of me going deeper into why my reaction in the first trailer, when we had our first impressions, was, why is she so white? That's what I said.
Yeah.
And, you know, the reason behind that, and I do have a couple notes here just so I don't forget to touch on certain things, is, look, upon doing a little more research on the show and everything, I've come to understand that, okay, she's Chinese, right?
Yeah, she's half
half Chinese or full, I'm not sure. And it makes sense, too, that since the author was actually, he's like Filipino-Chinese.
I heard, he was half Chinese, half Filipino himself,
half
so
Chinese.
I think he might have based the character a little on himself.
Maybe, and his experience, sure. Now, here's the thing. I think that if this is an adaptation of a very famous comic, and it became very successful as it is, and people love the character, love everybody about it, and this is kind of just like the animated version of it, I think that's great, you know? But if I'm going to forget about that, if I'm going to forget about the fact that the writer was half Chinese, if I'm going to forget about, going into this, which is what happened when we watched the trailer, when I was just thinking of two thoughts, Filipino and mythology, it does upset me to see that our main character does not reflect the average look of Filipinos, which is a more naturally, since we live near the equator and stuff like that, we do have a more tanner complexion. Like, I think if we go back to like the tribal roots, Filipinos are more tan in general, generally speaking. Not to say that there are no fair-skinned Filipinos. I know this, I've lived there, but the average is of a deeper complexion. And this is why it did upset me, because in the Philippines, culturally, it is not glorified to have tan skin. And I've told this to Andrew, and so much so that, and I do have a couple notes here just so I don't forget anything, but in fact, having tanner skin in the Philippines, you could even say it's a problem, because from a very early age, it is shoved down our throats. Whitening lotions, glutathione pills. If you don't know what glutathione pills do, like one of the main things, side effects that they do, is it is to whiten your skin. People in the Philippines, it is normal for the rich, or like people who can afford it, or, you know, it is something that a lot of people have wanted to do or have thought of at least once in their life. You know what they'll do? They'll not only take glutathione pills to get a fairer complexion, right? They'll inject glutathione into their body to achieve that whiter and fairer look. All right? I grew up in the Philippines where billboards, this, and I'm not even exaggerating, okay? There will be a billboard where someone is of a tanner complexion, right? And then another girl is like, oh, what's wrong? And she's sad because she's dark. And then the next part of the ad is, hey, try this soap. Hey, try this product. So then you can go from sad and dark to happy and white. That is a problem in the Philippines. And even if you look at the celebrities in the Philippines, for example, in Korea, right, you'll see that the most popular celebrities are Koreans. You know, they are the actual nationality. I'm sorry, they are the actual race. But when you go to the Philippines, our celebrities, the most popular celebrities are people who look half. They do not look like the pure Filipino tan, it's put on a pedestal when they are half white, half Chinese, half anything. Just make sure they're a mix so that they don't look pure Filipino. And I'm not the only one who notices that this is a problem. When we have beauty pageants, for example, there are Filipinos have complained, why is our representative not pure Filipino? Why is she some kind of mix? And getting a little emotional. And people, and you know what the common joke is for that? Defending why our Filipino representative isn't pure Filipino. People will joke. The other crowd will say, you know, if you want a pure Filipino representative, then give birth to a good-looking Filipino. That's what they'll say to the other people who are saying, why are we not getting represented the proper way? So yes, it does upset me that because for me, when I saw that Netflix was going to have Filipino mythology, I was thinking that I saw this as a great moment for us because this is on Netflix, and Netflix it's huge. It's a huge platform to really reach broader audiences, to reach more people. And so I saw this as our, like, Coco moment. For example, Coco was, like, Mexican mythology, right? And
a little bit of mythology. Mainly it was their culture.
Yeah, it was their culture, and it was done. And, you know, it did touch on mythology.
Yeah, a little bit.
And what was nice about that was, it was in Mexico, and you saw what most, the average look of Mexicans is, just deeper complexion, the main character, the supporting characters, everybody around them, had the average look. And same with Moana, right? Our main character, very Hawaiian, you see her, you're like Hawaiian. You see, Maui, right? Based in mythology, he is obviously very deep, dark, tan. And everybody around them too, majority, they're all very reflective of that. So I thought, going into this, not knowing anything about the comic, that this would be that for us, that this would be that introduction of the world to Filipino mythology with all our cool creatures and the shining star in the middle, someone who is Filipino, like pure Filipino. So that's why it made me upset, it surprised me, it shocked me to not see this. And I could go on and on, obviously, but I just hope that one day, look, Trese is great for what it is, great introduction. I do just hope that one day we could see that. I hope that Filipinos can have our Moana and Coco moment. And and I tried to look past it. And I tried to accept that, okay, our main character, she's Chinese, fine. Chinese Filipino, fine. But then you look at her supporting characters. You look at Crispin and Basilio, the twins. And from what I remember, because I was in the Philippines when I was in high school, right? Crispin and Basilio, there's nothing magical about them, but that's fine.
The novel that they're probably
they're just
after.
brothers. They're just brothers. And by the way, I'm not against the whole magicalness. That's cool, and a lot of people find them hot, right? Did you know that?
Yeah.
But anyway. And it just makes, when you look at it from that point of view, I don't remember them being, a mix. I remember them just being Filipino brothers, right? And yet, when you look at them, they are, again, of, a deeper, not a deeper complexion. And maybe it's because...
They're very, ghostly white.
Very
and maybe it has
white.
something to do with their magical heritage. But it doesn't... It's still, it was a weird choice to make because both their father is a Filipino god, and they make him tan, thankfully, because it would be really weird to have an ancient Filipino god not be tan. And even their mother is tan, so it was kind of weird that they weren't. I mean, I don't know if it's just they're main characters and we want them to be paler or something. I hope that wasn't the case. But unless someone can tell me that these characters are actually based on Filipino mythological characters who are stated in Filipino mythology that they're supposed to be ghost white, then I think it was kind of a bad decision to make these two. At least these two who are children of a Filipino god, not have the skin tone that an ancient Filipino would have.
And then it's like, okay, let's forget the main character, let's forget her sidekicks, let's ignore that. But then you look at the supporting roles, and even the police officer, he's not exactly deeply tan either.
Yeah, like the only one we really get is the driver.
We get the
he's
driver,
like
and
the
he's
least
the least
main out of all
important
the main characters
of the supporting role.
Yeah, he's only like in a little bit of the show. He's not in that much. The captain's in more of the show than he is.
So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I support Trese. I think it's a great introduction to Filipino mythology.
Yeah.
But that does bother me as someone who has experienced a culture of people not being proud of their skin tone, and our media just constantly telling us how we should be not happy about it, and you're less of, and so many things. So, to give context to why I reacted that way in the trailer, this is the reason why.
Yeah. And, like, I know they're adapting a comic book, so maybe, like, this was already preset, like, what these characters are supposed to look like. So, like, I don't even necessarily know if the showrunners are the right people to blame for this. And, you know, the guy who's writing the comic, I mean, it's his vision, so I don't want to tell someone else what to do with their property. I just think it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's pretty unfortunate that, like, what is, like you just said, the likely introduction of a lot of people into Filipino culture and mythology and stuff doesn't at least have some more, like, the different shades of Filipinos in the main cast, you know?
Yeah, and look, I wouldn't be so emotionally invested, in a sense, if this was one of many Filipino mythologies on Netflix.
So,
But no, this is that big one. This in a way is kind of our moment. And to still see that toxic, like, culture of glorified whiteness in the Philippines makes me sad and upset.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, I think, in some ways. Yeah, and like even like the Manananggal are all like really pale. When you would like they have multiple Manananggal who appear in this show temporarily, and you would think that since they disguise themselves as regular women throughout the day, there would be different shades of them. They wouldn't all be incredibly pale, but they're all like, I paused it and we looked, and they were all very, because we were excited to see Manananggal, so we paused. We were like, oh, look, Manananggal. It's like, you know, why couldn't they have done different shades? That was another thing we were thinking. But,
and you know, and another way to look at it is, for example, like if this was a show based on Norse mythology,
yeah, like Norse or Celtic mythology, like it would be like if you have a guy who's descended from Celtic gods, it would be like weird if like he had incredibly dark skin, especially if his mother had very white skin. Like he's the child of like Lu of the Long Arm, you know, who is a very, you know, white, blonde, you know, god. It would be strange if he came out with very dark skin. It's the same for this. Like it's kind of strange that the war god's children come out with a completely different skin tone than both their parents.
Yeah.
Like,
so yeah, maybe in the future, but yeah, I just hope slowly there will have more love for that Filipino team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So
for context.
like, and we're open to hearing what you guys think about that. We know everyone's got different experiences.
Yeah, like when I said in the trailer, I'm sure Filipinos can relate to me. You know, I was actually wrong to think that if you're like Filipino American, maybe if you haven't lived in the Philippines, you know, for maybe at least a couple of years, it can be hard to kind of see where I'm coming from. But I'm sure my fellow Filipinos in the Philippines who grew up with all of this media giving us these messages, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and everyone has different experiences. These are Wilda's, and this is what I know through her and through what I've seen on my own time. So, yeah, that's just what we think, and hopefully, like, you can understand that. All right, so now that we've talked about, like, non-spoilers, spoilers, and one thing that we really wanted to address, let's get into our final verdict on this show.
Yep.
Now, even with that thing, like we've said, we did enjoy the show quite a bit, and there's a lot to love here.
Yeah.
Overall, I would give this show, I think, a 7 out of 10. I was at an 8 until like the last episode where I felt like, okay, this exposition dump and the fact that this ending didn't feel earned is kind of taking it down a point for me.
Yeah.
So, like, the Creature of the Week stuff I loved.
Yeah,
I would
was
give
cool.
that maybe an 8 or a 9. But it did come down to a 7 because I thought the overarching story was not handled as well as it could have been. And that's kind of important.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Same. I think I would give it like a 7. Just because, number one, to be honest, like I mentioned before, I'm not a big mythology fan. I'm not a big anime fan.
Mythology fan, get out of here.
No, I'm not a big anime fan. But despite that, I was able to enjoy the show. It did give me at times like Invincible feels. Oh
Yeah.
God, with some of the moments in there. So that also like drew me in. Those moments. So yeah, despite it not really being my thing in a sense, I really did enjoy all like the Easter eggs, and it was really fun to watch as someone Filipino and who has lived in the Philippines. So
And it made it really fun to watch it with
yeah,
you.
yeah. And but yeah, I do knock off points just because it was shorter, and I do think that hurt the main, like the overarching storyline. But aside from that, yeah, it was an enjoyable, short and sweet show, and I'm definitely open to seeing more. I especially want to see some of the creatures we really were excited for. We really see their monster feature of the week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I want a Capre dedicated episode in the next season.
Yeah,
and I want a Manananggal
And
dedicated
I just want to,
episode.
I do want to just learn more about like, the sister in the
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
that
That's
could be
interesting.
interesting,
That's
yeah.
interesting. So, definitely 7. Recommend it for sure.
Yeah.
And what I think is good too about the show is, it's a nice mix of both. If you're into mythology or if you're Filipino, either side could really find things to appreciate about the show.
There was really something for both of us in here.
Yeah.
So, which was all the more good reason that, we waited till we could both watch it together. I'm sorry it made this video a little later, but we had a better time as a result that we did watch the whole season together. Yeah. All right. Well, those are our thoughts on Trese. Overall, we recommend it. So if you have a Netflix account, why not check it out? It's a very quick watch. That's all we have to say about that. Let us know what other things based on mythology are coming out and that you might want us to check out. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.